All right, so moving on into infant control of movement exercises. This first one is kind of a whole body control of movement. How many of you guys like your classrooms to be really nice and quiet? We all do. If that ever happens. So the best way to do that is to start young and start encouraging them to enjoy quiet time. So that's why we introduced an activity called Quiet Time. And that's when you sit one-on-one with an infant and you sing a song with them. And you start at like a normal singing voice, and as the song goes on, you lower your voice a little bit by the time you get to the end of the song. And then you really just sit there and see how long the infant can sit quietly until they're interested in something else. But you can do this in any age classroom. So I kind of do it as have you guys ever done anything like that before?
That'd be interesting to try in our classroom.
Yes, Maria used to do it, and Arthur laughed when he heard her whispering. I don't know why.
It's so silly. But it's really interesting to see how long they'll actually sit to be quiet.
I'm like thinking, I feel like we do that at circle time and stuff, because I'll say certain things and I'll start talking normally.
Well, and
I start
during
talking really
lessons,
quiet,
kind of.
like quietly, just to kind of go in like. And you'll see a few of them like they get like this and they'll hunch over and stuff, and I'm like, but then they're like, and I'm like, my voice was too loud, you know, and that's when I do that whole thing, and so I guess I kind of do that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us feel the need to fill the silence.
Yeah.
And so when you do an activity like that, like you don't want to be the first person to speak after you've stopped talking. Like it's okay to just sit in silence and just look at your friends and smile, and you can wave at them, whatever you want to do, but just it's okay to just be quiet for a little while. It's kind of the moral of the
As soon
the
as there's
lesson.
quiet in
like
our
that.
classroom, it's hello.
Hello! Oh my gosh, this is the morning. Hello! Oh my goodness! As soon as they open the door, he's like,
And then as they get older, you can turn it into a game to where you'll set a timer and you say, okay, I want everyone to be silent for, and however long you feel like they can legitimately sit silently, so like 15 seconds or 30 seconds or maybe a minute. And while you're silent, I want you to listen and think of all the things that you hear while we're quiet. And then after that time is up, then you can go around and ask, like, what did you hear while we were sitting quietly?
I like that.
Like, isn't it so amazing all the things you can hear when you're not talking? There's a lot of really cool sounds in our school. And they'll probably hear like birds chirping outside or cars. They might even hear an ambulance. They might hear a baby crying from the next room.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Kids talking. So there's going to be lots of sounds going on. But that's another, as they get older, way to encourage them that it's okay to be quiet sometimes. You can learn things by being quiet.
I can learn that lesson.
And it does require a lot of control of movement, because in order for us to sit quietly and to pay attention and focus, it also requires that your body be calm and still. So, and it doesn't really sound like a controlled movement activity, but it really does require that. Okay, but let's get back to movement. So our baby here, when they get to the point where they're starting to naturally be inclined to wanting to roll over, this is especially so like if you're doing tummy time, typically infants will roll from their stomach to their back more quickly than their back to their stomach.
Yeah.
Any idea why that is? How many babies like tummy time?
None.
Yeah, so they want to get off their tummy, so they're more motivated.
Oh, yeah.
Checks
When
out.
they're on their stomach, they're more motivated to get onto their back, so they
Yeah.
try harder. If they're on their back, unless they want something,
chill there.
they're just like, they're just
Stay
chill.
there.
Or they'll cry until someone comes pick them up.
Yeah.
So we need to somehow motivate them to want to roll over. So the rolling over activity kind of describes a way that you can encourage a child's movement to roll over. So for this, you're going to need some sort of an object that the infant wants, something that they're interested in, that they're familiar with, or maybe something new to them that you think that will really pique their interest. And we'll talk more about this in sensorial, where we work on tracking motion with our eyes. So once they've mastered that concept and they're really good at tracking and they're really good at reaching out and grasping things, which I think that's actually kind of backwards in here, because I'm pretty sure that's the next activity. Reaching out and touching should come first. So we'll come back to that. But if they're reaching for something and they can lift their arms over their head, then what you want to do is kind of bring the ball up over their head where they're trying to reach for it. And then whichever side you've seen them become more dominant towards with rolling, like if they do kind of get up on their side occasionally, aim for that side. So you want their hand to be above their head, and then you can bring the object up over, so that in order for them to continue to look at it, they actually have to like turn back and watch. So you just want it to barely be out of their line of sight where they can still track it, and then they'll pull for it and reach. But the arm is usually the biggest obstacle, because if their arm is like stuck here, then they have a harder time rolling over.
Yeah.
So that's why you want their arms up above their head, and as they're reaching, whatever direction they are, it will kind of give them momentum to roll themselves over. And then once they get there, they're like, "Get me off my stomach."
Yeah.
So of course we practice a lot of tummy time, but they'll probably roll right back over. Like, get me away from
We
here.
have a 3 months old baby. She just roll over.
All over the place. Oh wow.
She start from here. She's
That's
That's
incredible.
really
Yeah.
impressive.
That's
The
incredible.
first day she started, she was already rolling over.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, you don't need to work on that with her then.
No.
I would say shoe
Yeah, I would say so. I forgot to grab an object for this, but reaching out and touching, typically you'll want to use an object that's really easily graspable. So
Like a
something
ring?
like, a ring, or a rattle of some sort. Something that makes noise too, that's enticing for the infant to want to reach out and grasp. So obviously you're not going to use a pin.
Like
But
a
just to
bowl
show.
with holes.
Yes, anything that, like, as soon as they grab it, it's not going to just fall out of their
Yeah.
hand. So would this be a good object?
No.
No, because they're going to, like, touch it and then it's going to fall. It's hard to grasp that. You could try to use fabric. I probably wouldn't for the first time, because it is a little bit harder to grasp fabric as well until they have a really good firm grip on something. If they're really good at grabbing your hair, fabric might be a good thing to use. But reaching out and grasping, so the point of this is obviously for them to grasp the object. We're not going to do a lot of movement with it, other than if it makes noise to kind of rattle it to gain their attention. As soon as they reach out, then you want to put it within their reach. As soon as they have a grasp on it, let it go and let them take it. So you want them to have that instant gratification that I reached out, I grabbed it, and I got to keep it. And then if they drop it, pick it right back up and put it right back in front of them until they grasp it again, and just repeat that process over and over again. And then try for more difficult objects like fabric that moves a lot more. You can kind of sway it around where they have to grab it a little bit more. We will introduce it, I think, in sensorial, but your ring, the ring that you guys have that hangs from
Yeah.
the ceiling, that's a really good activity where they can just lay there and try to reach and grab it.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more difficult because there's nothing holding it stationary. It will kind of sway a little bit, and if
Yeah.
they reach to grab it, it will move out of their reach. So we want them to have some like instant gratification that they're going to want to keep trying to do it and not get upset that they can't get it done. Developing pincer grasp. This is an activity that we work on when they can start eating table food. It's really great to do with Cheerios. So at the table. What?
I'm sorry, I just looked at the baby for a second. I was just like, just ignore me.
It's a real baby.
It's just,
So
I was gonna be like, so cute.
Yeah.
This is such a cute bit. I was actually walking around with it in the building like this, and like I had 3 different people like, "Is that our baby?" No. it's not.
I was not expecting that facial expression from you. Did you dress him?
I did not.
Oh.
Miss Natalia dressed him for me. So this is an activity that you kind of when they first get introduced to table food, puffs are the perfect material for them to use in the beginning, and then as they can chew things a little bit better and not choke on them, Cheerios, like it will eventually melt in their mouth.
Yeah.
Do you guys do baby led weaning here?
We encourage it
Oh, cool.
if possible, yes. If the parents are on board with
Right.
it, it's kind of
One of
whatever
those
the
things.
parents decide.
Yeah.
We will educate them
But
on
you
it if
allow
they're
it.
interested. Yes, definitely. Yes, I used it with Hawkins and it was
Yeah,
great.
same.
I loved it. So anyway, puffs are great, and basically during an extra snack time where it's really not necessary for the infant to eat anything, you would give them puffs on their plate and obviously wash their hands in advance since they'll be eating, and just picking them up. A lot of them will start with a full hand grasp, and that's completely normal. What we're wanting them to get to is actually using
Just the
two fingers. So you'll want to model what that looks like to pick them up. And we'll do other activities when we get into sensorial to really work on using the pincer grasp. Thank you for demonstrating. Introducing in and out. I'll just have you set up right here. You're really little to be sitting up on your own. It's kind of impressive.
It's a small baby.
Very small. Very small baby. So in and out, you just need a container with some kind of deep sides, and then an object that can go to the container. So that's in. And take it out. And put the ball in. Oh, good job. You take the ball out. You're like, have to dive in there to get it. Out. Good job. And this will oftentimes turn into a dumping activity too, which is totally fine. You might not want a rolling object. But you want it to be large enough to where it's easy to put the object in, it's easy to take it out, it's like they're fitting it into a tight space. And then you can eventually turn it into a dropping in and out to where they hold it up higher, and then they can drop it in. And again, the container, and you could use something even larger like this. So you just want to make sure that it's very easy obstacle for them to do. This is great if you have kids who are struggling to clean up after themselves. If they've dumped something out, then we're going to work on putting things in. And of course, that's also a language skill of learning the difference between in and out. And sensorial, because it's the opposite. So it's like everything. But the motor skill of being able to put something in and take something out. And then that leads to very first Imbucar box. So this one's awesome because the retrieval process on this is pretty instantaneous, and they don't have to do anything to get the object out. It automatically comes down. So if they put the ball in, then it will roll out on its own, and it's a very great repetitive process activity. Obviously this requires a lot of fine motor skills, because if they've practiced something like this where they have a large space to put an object in, they're going to have to use a lot more dexterity to be able to get the container in the hole. I actually found a video of Hawkins doing it for the first time, so I'll post it on Moodle. You guys can watch it if you want to. It's a very proud mama moment.
It's exciting because Isla did the same thing, and for so long she'd just be like,
yes.
and then when they get it through and then they get it, it's like, it's like the first Montessori, like.
Yes. And I didn't have this particular one. I had one of the knit balls with the drawer, so I just kept the drawer out of it. So it was a little bit more difficult because, like I said, on this one you can just like let it go and it will roll in. But with the knit ball, you actually have to like place it in the hole. So that's why this one is also the first step. We'll go over the rest of the Imbucar boxes in sensorial because it becomes more of a sensory motor activity than just practical life. But it's one of my favorites for the infants.
So this is the part of practical life activity?
Yes, so this also crosses over between practical life and sensorial because it really is more of a sensory motor activity, but it's this particular one really focuses on the gross or the fine motor skill of being able to place the object in the hole. But yeah, it qualifies for both. And then likewise, dropping objects in, we have pulling objects out. I need an updated version of this, but this one's pretty fun. The whole leg came off with this one. But this is a small container. It actually works great with tissue boxes. If you have like a tissue box cover where it's a little heavier and it holds it still, because this requires that you hold the container and pull at the same time. So oftentimes with this one, you'll hold it for the infant, and then the infant can pull the objects out. Here, I'll let you be the infant on that. Oh, they're not together. That's okay. Oh, So you can actually tie all of the scarves together so it's just one long continuous clown trick.
Yeah.
But this is fun too because then they just get to pull them out like little tissues. If you ever give an infant a tissue box or a toddler a tissue box, you know.
Or wipes.
Wipes,
I've
yes.
lost when I forget to close the lid.
Yes. So if you have children who constantly do that with tissues or wipes, this type of activity is perfect. I actually just recently saw, I don't remember where, I think it was on Amazon. I saw they had like a wooden tissue box.
Yeah, I have it at home.
Do you?
Yeah,
I want
it's
it so
pretty
bad.
cheap.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to just buy one for the school.
I can bring mine in because I don't use it anymore. And you can use it in the infant classroom. It was nice, and I got a bunch of scarves like that and just put them in there. It's hard to, well, I guess they don't need to, but the bottom of it opens up and slides, and it's kind of tough. But they can just shove them back in. That's what you do.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the biggest downfall of this particular activity is it's not as repetitive because a lot of times the infants can't get the
Get
things
them
back
back
in. Now with the tissue box,
It's
it might
pretty
be
big.
easier.
It's like that.
So
You
yeah,
shove
that
it.
would
as long as you
probably
don't put too many in.
Then
You
they'll-
just put, because I was putting like all the scarves in there and then trying to show her how to like open it up, then put them. I'm like, this is too hard.
too many steps.
Too many steps.
Let's isolate the difficulty.
I really like that I'm learning all this before having this baby. 'Cause it's
Yay!
like refresher. I'm like, wow, I was doing so much wrong.
The first one is always like I always say they're the
Training.
guinea pig. They're the guinea pigs. And then after that,
Oh,
no.
my God. They're your test subjects.
I keep forgetting we're recording. Sorry.